So you have this beautiful airplane, you've flown it 10 or 12 times, and you start to notice it's getting pretty squirrely on takeoff and landing. On closer examination, you find that the wheels are extremely loose and wobbly. You check your bolts, everything's tight. What's happened is the plastic hub in the wheel has completely worn out due to the friction rolling on the steel axle bolt. In this video, we're going to show you one method to make a repair on the existing wheel. It'll make them last a lot longer, and it's even a technique that you can use on a new build so you don't have this problem in the first place. Start by making sure that your battery is out of the airplane, and you put it on a substantial bench stand and remove the wheel and the pant. Now you can see more closely the problem is that wheel has worn out egg-shaped. The steel axle has acted as an abrasive on the plastic. There's not any lubrication in it, and the manufacturers don't put any form of bushings or bearings in most of the wheels on this class of airplane. What we're going to do to repair this wheel is we're going to make a custom bushing. Once you've selected a brass tubing size that allows the axle to freely slide inside but not be too loose, you'll want to determine the drill bit size necessary to drill the hole through the hub. Measure the outside of the brass tubing. Find a drill bit that's 1 or 2 millimeters smaller than the brass tubing. That'll make your perfect size so that it'll press in and hold tight. Once you've determined the length of the brass tubing necessary, which is the thickness of the plastic hub on the wheel, you cut that off by putting it in the vise. I fold a piece of cardboard around it. Just to hold it so it'll grip enough so it won't slip around and it won't damage the brass. You don't have to tighten it up too tight. Take a nice sharp tubing cutter. The sharper the better, because you won't have to push as hard on it to get it to cut and not turn a ridge onto the inside. Take it around several times, tightening up just a little bit each time. And there's your bushing. Now you're going to get a little bit of a burr on the inside. Take a tiny little rat tail file. Smooth that out, get rid of that burr. Clean it out on both ends. Test fit your axle just to make sure that it'll go in, and that's ready to press in the wheel. It's strongly recommended for drilling the hole in the wheel hub that you use a drill press. It can be done with a hand drill, but it's less likely that you'll get an accurate and properly centered hole. With the proper drill bit secured in the chuck, locate the wheel by gently bringing the drill bit down to the hole in the hub. Get it perfectly centered up. Lock it down, holding it very tightly with a couple fingers. Drill it out. When you press this bushing into that wheel hub, you want to support the center of the wheel rather than putting pressure on the outside, because these plastic spokes could break under the pressure. So you want a little support in the center. I just make it out of a wooden dowel. To press that into place, you can put anything into your drill chuck that is substantial. This is a 3/8 socket extension. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it has a relatively flat end on it. Then all you want to do is take your drill down, put a little pressure on it, and that'll push that bushing into the center of the wheel. If it sticks out more than a millimeter or two, you can take a Dremel tool and just grind off the excess a little bit. This one's just fine the way it is. Before your final assembly, since we will have metal turning on metal, it's always a good idea to lubricate it. I actually use wheel bearing grease. Take a Q-tip, put a liberal amount of grease on that flat on the axle. Slide your wheel on. Now it's ready to bolt together. Put the axle nut on loosely until we get the wheel pan attachment screw in place. Here we are. Well, if you'll notice the contrast between the before and after, when we started on this, that wheel had about a ½ inch wobble from side to side. Now they're nice and tight, very little play, free spinning. Now this airplane is going to run nice and straight. Takeoff, landing, and particularly on taxi, and it's going to go where you want it to. Another one of the neat things about using this little bushing method is that when the first bushing gets enough wear on it that it does need to be replaced, which could happen if you're successful with 100 happy flights on your new airplane, you could take a new bushing, cut it off of that same tubing, and actually push the old bushing out of the wheel hub with the new one going in right behind it. Makes a real quick replacement and it stretches the life of those wheels out indefinitely. Most of the time the wheel hub will last longer than the airplane. Hope you found this tip helpful, and you can find more just like this in the members section at proflightrc.com. Happy flying!